Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Sayla, this is Jace, and we forgot to film an intro, so that's why I'm here by myself right now, the morning that this is being published. Basically, what you're gonna see in this video is us putting most of the skins in. I say most because, as you can see, the ceiling ones aren't quite in yet. We decided that it's probably in our best interest to map out exactly where we want our ceiling lights, get all of that figured out so that we don't have to backtrack later on. But what you will be seeing today is all the other panels in the trailer being put in. What we did is, well, we started out with our reflective insulation a couple weeks ago, and that's a video, so I'll put the card right here, I think. So you can click on that and go back if you didn't see that and you're interested in seeing us put in the reflective stuff, but if you're not, didn't miss much. Spray adhesive it in place. And after that, what we did is we went in and used what was packaged as R30 insulation, kind of took pieces of fluff out of it and then just stuffed it in there as much as we possibly could without overfilling it. Do you want out? Get out. Without overfilling it, because there's kind of a fine line between making the most out of the space you have between the shell and the skins as possible, or you can overfill it and that's going to make your panels kind of warp a little bit, or you can underfill it and you're just not really getting the most out of that space. So we used that to try and just really pack it in there as much as we possibly could while keeping it level with the support beams we have in place that hold the skins to the shell by riveting them to those cross beams, support beams, whatever you call them. And as we were riveting them in place, if we noticed any discrepancies or problems with the way that the panels were laying, then we could go back and kind of take a little bit of fluff out or add a little more if we just felt like it wasn't really as filled as it possibly could be. So we did that, and then of course we just went through and riveted every single hole. A lot of them did not even line up with anything. I don't know if they originally did, but a lot of them did line up. So ideally, I think we got most of them properly installed. It's kind of difficult because, you know, you're riveting a panel, just a huge, massive panel. You can't really see behind it or anything or what you're doing. And especially since we've had these panels out for so long, I don't know if the exposure to weather and the elements and temperature changes has kind of warped the shell a little bit. And that may have caused problems, so keep that in mind if you do have a little bit of offness on where your rivets are going versus where your holes might actually be. In our case, we just kind of drilled them out a tiny bit, and I hate that, but we had to drill them out a little bit just to make sure that the holes were lining up and everything was holding as tightly as it possibly could, and that worked out in our case. As we worked our way up with additional panels, it didn't get worse. That could be a potential problem if you are doing this yourself, is if your bottom panels aren't lining up right and then you move on to the layer above it and that doesn't line up right, it might just get progressively worse as you work your way higher and higher and higher. But that's a big reason why people like Clecos, is you can basically temporarily hold the panels in place. And we considered buying a pack of those, but they're fairly expensive for the amount that you get. And the fact that you're only using them on the skins once, maybe twice if you have to go back and do something, it's kind of hard to justify the cost because we got through all of these without them and we made it work. So I would say they're not entirely necessary, but maybe if you're doing an Airstream entirely by yourself, they could definitely help you out. But if you have 2 or 3 people total working on this thing, I'm pretty sure and pretty confident you could get by without them. So maybe that's an unnecessary cost that you don't have to do yourself, but if you are, I don't know. I think it's a personal preference thing. We got by without them just fine. As you'll see throughout the video, we kind of have to go through and patch a few areas on the skins. It's just old areas where they either had 12-volt outlets that we're not going to be using, or old light switches or old lights. I don't know. There was a bunch of weird holes and we didn't really need to use all of them, so we patched quite a few of them up and made a couple new ones for our new light switches. So that's what we're doing. If you see that and you're kind of wondering what are they doing, that's probably it. I don't really think there's a whole lot to explain. As always, it's just kind of a lot of repetition of doing the same thing over and over and over again. Stuff with insulation, put your panel in place, rivet it, move on to the next panel, stuff your insulation, and repeat. So without further ado, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and jump into the time lapse of the footage I have left of this whole endeavor, and then we will go from there, and you will see us at the end for the outro. I'm back again. I just remembered this. So what you're seeing right now is our rivet gun saying goodbye to us. So that was the $75 one from Harbor Freight, and even though it didn't quite last to the end, it performed flawlessly. It was super easy to use throughout the time that we did have it working. So I think it was just a freak accident. A lot of the reviews say they've built full airplanes with that thing. So I would say it's a quality rivet gun for the price. If you are looking into getting one yourself, we would definitely recommend the $75 one from Harbor Freight. We don't feel like there's any need to spend any more than that, honestly, and it did its job really well. But we had problems with it towards the end where the jaws just wouldn't open and close when we pressed the trigger.
I don't know what's going on with this thing.
Whenever you hook the air compressor to it, the jaws automatically closed, and we called customer support. We tried everything to try and troubleshoot it and make it work again. It just wasn't happening, so we had to go to Harbor Freight, and we intended on exchanging it for the exact same thing. We were happy with it. Again, we just didn't feel any need to either upgrade or downgrade. That was exactly what we needed, and we found it easy to use. However, they did not have that model in stock, so we decided to downgrade because why not try and save an extra $25? Well, here's why not. This thing, it's just a slightly smaller version. However, we do not enjoy it nearly as much. It's just not quite as easy to use whenever you pull the trigger to get the rivet to pull the mandrel out and pop the rivet. You have to do it a few times in order to get that shank pulled completely out rather than just pulling it once and it has everything taken care of. It's also pretty difficult to get the shank out once it has pulled it out, so it likes to get jammed in there. We've tried regulating the compressor differently and nothing seems to really change that. We've oiled it, we've done everything the instruction manual says, and we just had a much more positive experience with our older one. So while we're sad that we won't have it for the remainder of these panels, we'll make it work. If you're taking on this project yourself anytime soon, get the $75 one from Harbor Freight. Great product, much more worth your money, definitely worth the extra 25 bucks. So, all right, back to the video. Alright guys, so we just got back from Birmingham where we did our live stream thing, and we were getting ready to finish putting in our final skin panels, and we really thought about it and how we're gonna get the lights in and everything like that. And we've come to the conclusion that we're just gonna wait to do the rest of them because we feel like it would be a lot easier and probably a better way to go about the whole thing if we just ordered the lights, we're able to see how bright they are, what size hole we need, everything like that, and then pre-drill the skins to fit those specifications, how many we need, where we want them to be, everything like that, plan it out in advance, so then it's a lot easier than trying to like run our arms and stuff behind the panels after they're already partially installed. So this is where we're leaving off for this video. We're gonna get those lights ordered hopefully tonight, and then you guys will see the rest of it within the next few weeks, ideally. Take care, and we will see you guys again next week.
Thursday.
At
3.
Bye.
Jerry! He took a roll of paper towels with him.